What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It is January 3rd, 2025, second trading day of the year, and it was a doozy. Good day for the majority of our community. I think right now we're sitting at 11 red and 140 some odd green. Very fantastic day, much like yesterday was. I took note of the fact that you guys seem to enjoy the type of video that I made yesterday. So I'm going to offer a similar one again today. I will tell you that even though we do what we do in here every day, I am not going to make it a habit to make this type of video every day. And the reason is simply it takes a lot of extra time and there's really no benefit. The people that watch these videos are the ones who are already in the room taking advantage of the information that I'm sharing with you. The reason I am doing it is because, especially with these morning trades, which are the ones that I take myself, it allows me to show you guys how I prepare for the morning, because I explain it not just for our community members, but so that I'm convincing myself to do what it is that I think I should be doing, right? I'm talking myself into my trades, just like I always do. So the benefit of me sharing these videos with you is so you can get an insight of what's going on in my head, because I'm talking out loud on a microphone, explaining what I want to see and then justifying what I'm going to do at the open. Okay, so you guys like this. I will do them semi-regularly, but it's not going to become the normal everyday format. And it will almost always be the morning. This is my time to shine. It's when I take my personal trades, and it's my favorite time of the day. We do find good setups throughout the good portion of the morning, but instead of trying to edit a whole bunch of different trades and video and all that, I'll just share you guys from 9:25 in the morning till I get out of my first trade. So you can hear and see and watch in real time-ish what's going on. Okay. With that said, I also want to show you something I'm excited about. This is the final version of the cover of my book that is coming out very, very, very soon. We tried to get it out for January 1st. Unfortunately, life happens and editing and all kinds of other things. It's not quite ready yet. However, I am sending a version to be printed this weekend. And as long as that print comes back looking how I expect it to look, it should be ready for purchase if you're interested by the end of this month sometime. It's a 200-page book. It's very in-depth. It covers everything that I use to trade my own money and what I do and teach other people. If you want, you can pause the video and read the synopsis of what this book is about right here on the back cover. But if you're interested, leave me a comment. Let me know. It will be available. As of right now, it looks like the price is going to be $28.99. That is based off of Amazon's cost and what they suggest we should sell it for. And to be completely transparent, that's going to leave me with a $6 profit per book, at which I am spending half of that is going to the author of the book, the guy who wrote it. So he helped me write the whole thing at no cost to me. But the flip side is, he only gets paid if it does well. So, help me support my author when it's ready to go. But thank you guys for your support on this one. Next, I am going to go over a couple of the trades that we found this morning, and then I'm going to play the live audio of the first trade of the morning, and that explains everything that we were looking for, and it worked to a T. It was exactly... I couldn't have written the script any better, even if I already knew what the chart did before I made the video. Meaning, you would think that the market heard what I said and then it did it exactly that way so that I could look like a hero. I'm not a hero, but it does feel really good when the plan that you're hoping works out, or you're hoping to plan out, works exactly as you hoped it would. Because it makes those trades feel really, really good and really, really comfortable. Much like yesterday's trade, today's worked. It was just to the upside instead of the downside. But we'll go over that here in just a moment. But let's go ahead and get to the charts and start talking about some stuffs. So as usual, we had our normal pre-market blue lines followed by our orange lines high, our orange lines low, all the things. I'm not going to go into super depth about this trade right here because this is the one that you're going to watch the video of shortly thereafter. So I'm going to go ahead and skip this and skip explaining the call and put scenario. I will tell you that I was prepared for calls. Again, this is all reiterated in the live feed that I'm going to share with you. I was ready for calls. Why? Because we were putting in higher lows leading into the open, and the top 10 were very green. Everything looked good to the upside. So there was no reason to consider puts, but we'll get past that. Now, what I do want to reiterate, because I got out of this trade during a pullback of this red candle. Okay, that ended up being a 28.6% win for me. Good enough for me, pays my bills for it was a good chunk. We pull back to support, and then it holds that support and runs up. Now, here's the important part, because this is where I want to tell you, we did have people hold through this pullback and made a continuation of that move to the upside. I was not that guy. We had several people that were. We also had several people that got in on this pullback and rode it up to here. We had some people get in when we closed above this line here and rode it up. The caveat or the key here is, how did we know to get out here? I didn't just pick a random candle to start telling people, hey, you should consider getting out of your calls if you're holding on to them. There's a very specific reason. And the important part to note is it's the same reason that we got out of our puts yesterday. Do you remember what it is? Well, let me show you what it was. Where are the Qs at this time? So this is the 945 candle. This is the 945 candle right here. What we're looking at here, and then there's another piece to the puzzle that gives you an even better idea to not only get out of calls, but perhaps be ready to get into puts. Double line of resistance here. One of these is a future line. The other one's basically a Fibonacci retracement line. Okay, that's this orange line. So you got two lines of resistance there on SPY. You got the pink line as the stink line on the Qs. You got ADD at 945 aggressively selling off. All things that don't look good for holding calls, let alone buying them. So we were telling people, guys, get out of calls if you're still holding on to them. If you want to hold through it and hope that it continues up, which I'm all for, please put a stop loss in place so that if it does do what we were worried about it doing, which it ended up doing, you don't get burned. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but for me, if I'm good in green, especially if I held from the opening candle to up here, I'm very green at that point. A pullback, even though I would still be green on a decent size pullback, I'm not nearly as green as I was once before. Now, for me, that presents a problem because what happens is I remember the taste of the green up here, and I liked it a lot. Maybe not enough to take it while it was there for the taking, but it tastes a lot better after you get a pullback and you're a lot less green than you were before, right? Now, maybe I'm crazy, but what happens to me at that moment, if I didn't stop out somewhere near the top, is now I become a hold and hoper. Why? Because I'm pissed that I didn't take my good profits when I had them. Now I don't want to accept something less than good, even though it's still green. So naturally, my body goes into hold it until it gets back to where it was. And the problem is, a lot of times, you never get there. And even if it does, it has pulled back so far that you either panic sold out or you said you got so red on the trade, like if you held all the way down here, there's no reason for you to believe that it would ever get back up to this value. Now, some people really don't care and say, I'm just going to hold it and whatever happens, happens. I don't know about you, but when I get pulled back enough, so I already realize I made a mistake, I'm a hold and hoper, and then it just keeps getting worse. You start to say, well, that was stupid. And I don't know. Again, I think it happens to a lot of people. How many times have you cut a losing trade, a really bad losing trade, literally at the worst possible time? Like, it would be my luck. I would cut that losing trade all the way down here at the bottom and then watch it come all the way back up here. Doesn't mean it would have turned into a great winner, but it would have been a lot less painful, right? All these things happen to me, and that's why I am way more disciplined when it comes to taking my profits. And when I decide that I want to hold on to a trade that I naturally feel like I should not do, that's when I put mechanical stops in place to protect me from me. Okay. Now that's a me problem. It's not a you problem, but people are in here trying to learn from me, and I can't pretend to be somebody I'm not. So if I'm telling people, hey, tighten up your stops, it's because I'm feeling like I should probably take myself out of the trade, because there's something somewhere that's making me feel like I'm making a mistake by not taking my profits. So if I'm going to choose to live through that mistake, it might not be a mistake. But if I'm going to choose to stay in a situation that I'm not feeling comfortable or very confident about, then I better protect myself from myself, knowing what is going to happen if I allow this thing to pull back enough to where I become a hold and hoper. Okay, so that's really what I try to avoid. And that's why I cut myself out of huge winning trades very often. I'm more worried about spending too much time in a trade, because all too often you get a nice move in one direction and then out of nowhere, for no apparent reason, you get a dump. Now in this one, we could see the dump coming. Why? Because SPY was at a resistance, Qs were at the pink line, and ADD was aggressively selling off. So yes, for those of you who played puts or were finding the reason to play puts, it all lined up right around 945 or 950, and you had an opportunity to make a lot of money. Now, this yellow one here, this wasn't a call suggestion to get into a trade, but it was a suggestion for people who were starting to feel a put bias because of the aggressiveness of this move, the lower highs, we're at resistance. I said, guys, I don't think I'd buy puts here. And the reason for that is we just put in a higher low. Number one, I'd be more worried that this thing's going to break up. So the resistance to the upside is right here. Okay, so not this yellow line, the most recent lower high, right? So once we start putting in the higher lows here at 955, we also put one in here on the Qs. Okay, so now on the Qs chart, it's this line was resistance. It's the most recent lower high to your left. We rejected it, higher lows, 10 o'clock candle. We don't buy leading into, and when I say leading into, I mean, it's probably, if you're in a profitable trade coming into 959, it's almost always better to take your profits at that point. Okay. In this case, you would have held through a pullback and then it would have worked out if you were in calls. But we don't like to get into trades or hold through these 10 o'clock candles because they're report candles most of the time. And sometimes it's just huge volume comes in and you have no idea which way it's going to go ever. So don't get into a trade, but I wouldn't get into puts. Here's why: higher lows. We're more likely to break resistance, not hold it. Wait for 10 o'clock. The 10 o'clock report kept us above a support line. But then if we were able to clear after 10 o'clock, that resistance, we're expecting it to go up to the next resistance. And that's exactly what the Qs did. It's exactly what SPY did. It made it right up to the pink line on the Qs. This was literally a 1 to 2 minute trade that moved a fair amount of money in a short period of time. Now, just like over here before, it's the same setup, except this time we were suggesting the potential for buying puts. I was one and done today, so I'm not interested in taking this trade, but ended up being as good, actually a little bit better than the first one. But all the same reasons. We're at resistance on SPY. We're at the pink line on Qs, and ADD is starting to sell off again. All the things you want to see to make profit or to consider puts was happening at the same time. Take advantage of it. Where are you looking for it to go? Down to the next support. On SPY, that support is all the way down here. On Qs, that support was right here. And as you could see on the Qs, putting in lower highs, it ended up getting right to that line, tried to buy up, and continued to move down to its next support, which was here. Pulled back a little bit, continued down to the next support. And then we got down to our put line on the Qs. Remember, after you watch the clip that I'm going to show you after all of this, we wanted, in order to take puts down here, we needed SPY to be below their high of day, pre-market high, sorry, which is this blue line here. And we wanted Qs below their pre-market high. Qs never closed below it. So there was no reason down here for us to take puts. It bounced right off of it. Okay, now the same thing that you are always looking for if you're considering taking a position. Lower high to the left, higher lows here. Don't buy puts there. We're more likely to move up than we are to move down. Okay, it's the same thing over and over, guys. Now, the reason we waited till 10:33 for this call is because we wanted to now clear this resistance and have a fair amount of space to go to the upside, which was all the way up here. Admittedly, at 10:33, we got above that resistance. You got in, we hit one of our lines of resistance, although it wouldn't be the one I was aiming for. We got a pullback to support. This would have stopped me out anyway. I wouldn't have held through this. But ultimately, as you guys could see, we held that support and it did get up to the next resistance. Pulled back to support again, ultimately getting up and through and continuing up finally for the first time on the day. Now, there is something I want to show you. We were not advising holding calls through this red box. That's why it's there. What I was hoping for was that if we closed above the red box, that we would get a burst of buying that would allow SPY to continue up a lot more aggressively. Now, this time it didn't happen, but the reason it didn't happen was because Qs was pinned below resistance areas. Okay. Earlier in the day, I told people I wouldn't be buying calls while we're up here on the Qs until the Qs can close above the pink line. Qs close above the pink line at 11:30. SPY was above the red box at 11:30. Qs and SPY and ADD all started to move up at the same time after getting above those respective crazy resistances that they finally broke above. So yes, the move at 11:30 was confirmed to be buyable because the Qs finally cleared resistance at 11:30. A resistance that they failed to get through several times before in the day. Okay, so a whole bunch of sellers that were there are now turning into buyers, helping the move continue up, and up it went. After that, there was not much to trade in my opinion. These types of moves here, that's not playable. Theta hurts. This grind up here would have been a long and tedious one. And because of the time of the day, I'd be willing to bet that yes, you probably made money if you happen to get in down here on support and held it through this move up. But man, if you held through the pullback to this point without selling for profit, you were red again. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no way after the decay that would have happened from buying here and holding to here that you would have been green. And if you were, it was not by much, I would be willing to bet. Now, there's no arrows on this chart other than my A+ setup arrows because I'm out of here at 12 o'clock every day now, guys, which brings me to my next point, which I meant to say in the beginning of this video. For those of you who are interested in joining our community, I have reduced the monthly price to $65 a month from $100 a month. And no, it's not because I'm desperate to get more members. It's because I'm spending less time on the microphone. I'm going to be on the microphone from 8:30 in the afternoon or in the morning till 12 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday through Friday. Okay. And the reason I chose to do that is because after 12 o'clock every other day, I was gone for lunch for an hour. And when I'd come back at 1 o'clock, I'm not taking any trades and I don't feel comfortable to take trades. So I'm not going to feel comfortable suggesting that other people do. So instead of continuing to waste my time and everybody else's time for the last 3 hours of the trading day, I said, you know what? If you guys vote for me to take off every day at 12 o'clock, I will lower the price for you guys to be here. And that's exactly what we did. So as of January 1, for anybody who's interested, the annual is always going to be $600 a year, which is $50 a month. And the month-to-month guys are at $65 a month. Okay. So if that's something you're interested in, the cost of entry is a little bit lower. You are seeing through some of these videos I'm sharing with you what goes on so you know what to expect. I would still recommend that you take advantage of the free week. So just show up first, use the free week and see for yourself what we do and what goes on in the room. Okay. If you like it, become a member. If you don't, thanks for stopping by. I hope you learned something useful. Now, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and roll the clip for this morning's video. Enjoy. For the call put scenario today, I'm going to have to say that if we can get back below our pre-market high line, which is right here at 586.80, We are likely to come down to, I would say 586.24, maybe even down to 586.10, but that would be my trigger for puts if I was going to get into puts, and we got to wait and see what the Qs are doing, what ADD is doing, and all that fun stuff. But for now, if we get below that line on SPY, that would be necessary for me to feel comfortable buying calls, or puts rather. For the upside, at this point, I mean, realistically, we are putting in higher lows leading into the open, so I will be prepared for calls. But you'd like some kind of a pullback, probably to 587.14 before you'd want to jump in. Because if you do get in on a support that happens to stop at the current resistance, it's still a 30-cent move, and that could still pay us 15 to 20% return on our money. So again, remember, caveat here is going to be, you're not going to buy it just because we're above this line. Ideal situation would be a small pullback towards that line before you jump into calls. Everything in the top 10 except for Apple is green. Okay, so the market at the moment seems to be happy. But this is also how yesterday started. More importantly, though, you want the Qs above this line right here before you jump into any calls, in my opinion. Okay, so for the upside on the Qs, we want to be above 513.60. For the downside on the Qs, super aggressive would be below this orange line that we're at, but I would say you probably want to wait for the same pre-market high line to get breached to the downside. Okay, now obviously we have to take into consideration, as always, ADD. Let's see what ADD is doing. It's going to open up at a pretty green number because everything in pre-market is up from where it closed yesterday. So I would imagine ADD is going to be a pretty positive number to the upside. So we gotta keep an eye on that. So for now, I am prepared for calls. Most important part of this isn't so much where SPY is, it's where Qs are. If the Qs can get above this line of resistance here, obviously they have a decent amount of space before they run into their next resistance. And as long as ADD is pushing green and Qs are still putting in higher lows, calls are going to want to be what I want to be in. If SPY doesn't pull back and Qs get above, that's a super aggressive entry. You got to remember, as we move up in pre-market leading into the open, we're just making new highs of day. Okay, so it's not always the wisest thing to do to buy high of day breakouts. I mean, I've done it plenty of times, but it's not my favorite thing to do. So honestly, it's probably better to wait a minute or two to see what's happening before you jump into anything. I feel like that's the responsible thing to do. Good morning, Jared. I feel like that's what I should do. Good morning, Bo Diddley and Symbols. Thunder from Down Under. But criteria, just like we talk about every other day. In order for me to be in calls, I want to make sure I'm not pushing up against a resistance on Qs. Want to make sure there's room to go on SPY. But for now, everything looks like it's trying to go up, so I will be prepared for calls, not puts. And let's see what happens. All right, let me go over here so we could kind of watch at the same time. So SPY and Qs putting some pressure on that orange line. Both of them hold as support. ADD is trying to print a big green candle right there. So let's see. Let's see if this move can persist up, and see if the Qs can get above that 513.60 line to the upside. If they do, you would like to hopefully make it at least to this dotted line. But if you find yourself getting into calls and you get into profit, as always, because it's so early, you're going to want to put your stops at break even so that you don't get your booty handed to you. Yeah, so there's some sellers above that line. This is not surprising. It is a line of resistance from the other day, yesterday being that day. Qs did close above that line. Let's see if they can continue to push. And again, if you're in this, I would say trail your stops. ADD is not really coming down. It's not really moving up either. So the move that you're seeing on SPY is a result of the Qs pushing it up at the moment. And the first target we'd like to see on the Qs is 514.52. And again, put a stop loss somewhere in profit so that you don't have to stress waiting for this thing to do what you hope it's going to do. Trail your stops. Qs are coming up to a line of resistance right now. ADD is starting to print a little bit of red. So let's see if this ends up continuing up or if it starts to rotate down. Good job, Monkey Fester. Monkey Fester is one and done. It's a beautiful thing. That's a big wick on the Qs chart down there on the bottom left. Let's see if the sellers can stop it or if the buyers stay strong. So ADD is again trying to print a little bit of green here. Good job, everybody who's done. Good job. Put your stops in place. Shit was expensive again this morning. By the way, in case you didn't notice. It's still trying to go up. It's still trying to go up. Our target, again, is more based on the Qs than SPY. It looks like they would both hit their dotted lines at the same time. ADD, again, is not coming down, so the buyers are stronger. I am actually trailing this move, hoping that we can continue up from here. And let's see if the Qs could get through this. Their next real resistance is all the way up at 515.44. Again, please trail this stop, guys. It's a beautiful move to the upside, and it did exactly what we hoped it would do. You guys remember that? We wanted to get a pullback to support on both charts. ADD was printing green. All of the reasons to consider taking that to the upside existed for what we normally look for. Okay? And as we get closer to this line of resistance up here, as long as you're trailing your stop, then you shouldn't have anything to worry about if it doesn't actually make it to that line. Okay? Is anybody still in this trade right now? Again, we're hoping the Qs can push up to 515.44. We're hoping ADD doesn't start printing big red candles. Right now, ADD is moving very little. It's just kind of chopping around sideways. But have a trailing stop. If you get stopped out, don't be upset. I got stopped out on this pullback here. Again, I'm playing it a little bit tighter because it's the first trade of the day. Felt a little bit aggressive, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. That was a beautiful move on the Qs, so congratulations to those of you who actually trade the Qs. That was a much better, it looks like a much better move. How far did we go from on the Qs? So 513.01. Yeah, man. I mean, in its entirety, that was almost a $2 moves. To the upside on the Qs. On SPY, if you count from the orange line, 587.14 all the way up to 588.62. So about $1.50 on SPY. It's a great first trade. And for many of you, if you catch even half of that, you're probably good enough to be one and done. Well, there you have it, folks. I certainly hope you enjoyed watching that. I hope you made it through the entire thing. I know the entire video itself is pretty long. That's just part of the way that this type of format has to be. I have to explain the trades that we did find today, and then I'm going to share on random days the trades video clippings that I take and put into some of these videos. Okay. Yes, I will include losing ones if there are some that don't work out. But as I had told you before, I am mostly going to do it with the beginning trade of the day, starting with the call put scenario, simply because that's the trade that I take 99% of the time. It's usually the only trade per day I take, unless for some reason I decide to take a second trade of the day. And but the more important part is, as mentioned before, I want to share with you guys not only what goes on in this room, but my thought process so that I can prepare myself to execute my plan. And as long as I see what I hoped I wanted to see, then I have to execute my plan because, well, that's just the way it works. So thank you for watching. If you got any useful information in this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to join our Discord community, well, you know how to find us. For links down below. And I hope you all had a fantastic day today. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I do appreciate every single one of you for watching these videos. And until Monday, I love you guys. See you.